Hello and welcome again to Forgotten Temples with myself, Mr. B. Now I'm opening with a question directed at you. I want you to have a good long look at this building and then I want you to tell me what it is. Now that question alone does give you one answer, that it is not, because quite obviously it's not a temple. Otherwise, why would I ask? So have a good look and see if you can work out what this building is. And please note the sounds in the background, because today is a religious holiday. So there's the ringing of bells and chanting all around us to make this even more atmospheric. Now then, have a look, tell me what this is. Now keep in mind it has stood here for nigh on 1,000 years, and I've already told you it is not a temple. So we need to travel back in time in our minds and imagine who walked through that ancient doorway and why, because this is obviously a building of some significance. There ain't many clues, is there? In fact, there's none. So I better tell you, what you're looking at here is quite remarkable. For what it is a nursing home. Set off just to the side of the main structure is this. It is a pool, a place to retain water. Now this water, I feel, would have been used for two purposes. One, for cooking and for cleaning, but also for the primary reason that this building is here, and that is to render aid and assistance to those that are medically ill. So it's not much of an imagination needed to imagine those coming here and bathing in these pools to clean themselves. But you may well say, well, that doesn't make any sense really. Why would people bathe in their own water that they will use for cooking? Well, it would have been safe, wouldn't it? Because they would have boiled the water. And although they wouldn't have understood as to exactly why, boiling water makes it, I don't know, clean in some way, they would have understood that by doing so, they didn't get sick and they didn't die. This would have been universally known. I mean, we know that this empire spread far and wide, as did their trading routes all the way to China, India and beyond. And it just would have been a universal knowledge that says boil your water before you drink it. So maybe here at this nursing home, people would have come here first and they would have refreshed themselves after a long journey, often in pain and most certainly in distress. You may be able to hear music in the background as the water festival has returned. And over there is a big concrete temple, and that is where everyone is, hundreds of people. But here, next to this ancient delight, the granddaddy of temples in this area, there's not a soul, it's only I. And it's nice to hear joyful music in the air, but it would have been oh so different nigh on 1,000 years ago. As I said, the people that came here would have been terribly distressed. You've got to imagine their final steps are here, right here, in this very dirt, because they would have been on an exceptionally long journey. There wasn't many places like this, but my goodness, it would have been known far and wide. So, being pulled behind a cart drawn by cattle or similar, a water buffalo, they would have bumped and junked and had an awful journey in the blazing sunshine, sick, ill and desperate, to come to this place to try and find some sort of hope, some sort of salvation from what could probably kill them. For here lay the knowledge, lay the wisdom that might save their very lives. So we can imagine them being carried, maybe one person under each arm, as at long last their journey was complete. In the background, the chanting continues for the religious holiday, and there would have been chanting here too, to try and aid those that came seeking help. As I've said in previous videos, never underestimate these buildings. Never underestimate the ancients that plied their trade here. Because what you're looking at, yes, for all the world is a temple, and it surely is, because in here dwelled a god. What was around this structure was wooden buildings, and it is there that the weary, ill traveller would have laid down and received care. And you may think, oh, well, that care was just a few leaves or something. Oh, goodness, no, absolutely not. You've got to remember, as I've mentioned, this empire spread way beyond India and China. So it's not just local knowledge. This is international healthcare at its absolute finest. So right here, you would have got the best of the best. And there was more to this, because it wasn't just medical care. In there was a god. So you got a second level of care, and that was spiritual. And believe me, that can make an absolutely huge difference. So let us go up these ancient steps, just as those sick and weary travellers did. And we will enter into the home of a god. And it is in remarkable condition. Now, as to who dwelled here, I could not tell you. But what is exceptionally exciting is I do know of another god that was worshipped here, one I have never met. It's quite incredible. I have never come across this god before, well, goddess. And it is even more remarkable that she is associated with my most favourite god, Indra, for she is the goddess of wealth, flanked here by two beautiful elephants, and this is in exceptional condition. Now, I looked up on the internet about this god, and this is what I found, and it is quite simply pitiful. I shall put it on the screen now. I'm going to get the name wrong, and I do apologise, but there's no one to ask. Galjalashim, also spelt in a slightly different way, is one of the most significant aspects of the Hindu goddess of prosperity, Lakshmi. Now, I'm completely butchered that, I admit, but not as bad as Wikipedia, because what you've just seen on your screen is the entire entry for this god. That's all she gets, is those 2 lines. Huh? How can that be? Now, I am rather defensive of her, because, as I say, she helped my favourite god, Indra, because she returned to him his wealth by dragging it up from the depths of the sea. Now, Indra being my favourite god for one primary reason, because he was a bit of a boy. He was very much like me. He spent all his time drinking and cavorting with ladies, so much so the other gods looked to Indra and said, get your act together. This is no way to act if you're a god. You should be more godly. And I'd imagine in his tale, he lost all his money, probably gambling, knowing Indra, and it was this lady who gave him that sense of dignity back. But Wikipedia has deemed to give her just 2 lines. In the distance, I can hear the religious chanting as the festival goes on. And right here is something I can't really spend too much time on, but it's the base of a statue, and you can see it's nigh on 6 feet tall. It's quite incredible, isn't it? But I try and keep my videos down to approximately 10 minutes, purely so I can keep your attention. That's me just being truthful right there. This side has been absolutely amazing, because there are some people that come here and they look upon these stone blocks and they think, oh, look at that wonderful engineering, it must have taken so much work. But if you really want to understand this story, you have to look beyond, far beyond, all the way back into time. Because when one understands that this place was a beacon of hope that called out for many hundreds of miles, the only place of hope, that if you got sick, ill or wounded, then all of a sudden it takes on a totally different meaning. It's life and death all of a sudden. And those that came here would have been desperate, in pain, and potentially a bit downtrodden. And what they would have received is amazing. Medical knowledge from all through the empire, stretching beyond tempestuous seas, dark forests and mountain ranges. Thousands and thousands of miles the knowledge travelled to come to this very spot. And that to me is more than just blocks of masonry to be admired. I very much hope that you've enjoyed this little trip around a place oh so far away in a mystical land, and if by chance you can help me build up a library of temples and sites such as this, often ignored and neglected, then I would be deeply grateful. And how you do that is very simple. It's www.patreon.com/temples. Simple as that. So, until next time, as always, I wish you absolutely nothing but, of course, the very best. You be sure to take good care now.